Secretary, but there's a current thing that's controversial or news that you were allegedly offered a 1 billion.
I was offered.
You were offered.
Yes.
Can you describe the situation? And if you are able to identify the person that offered it, we'd be happy to know.
Unang-una, I cannot really identify. Unang-una is a good friend.
Nani Braganza.
Hindi, naghihintay ako ng balato nun eh. Pag totoo yun eh.
Well, anyway.
Aside from being a good friend, I think he was also in the same position. In other words, when I refused the 1 billion, I refused to run against...
Well, what's the 1 billion is...
He's a former Solicitor General, Justice Secretary, a former Labor Secretary, a long-time lawyer of former President Rodrigo Duterte, Secretary Silvestre Bello. May mano.
Silvestre.
Welcome to the spokes, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Edwin. Mga former secretaries.
Kayo din eh.
Tayo.
Mas matanda lang ho kayo na secretary sa amin.
Apat ako naging
Naka-apat ho kayo.
So you had 4 terms.
Si Cory, si Fidel Ramos, si GMA, saka si PRRD.
Under Cory, you were?
Our Secretary of Justice.
Oh, okay. And
Under
then?
FBI.
Solicitor General and Secretary of
Justice.
Justice. So, under GMA, Cabinet Secretary.
Yes.
Ano yan, no?
Oh, magkasama po tayo.
Sakit ang ulo to eh.
Yes.
Kasama kami noon.
Oo.
And then under former President Duterte.
Labor Secretary.
Hindi ka sumama kay Pinoy.
Ha? In fact, magkasama sana kami.
Oo.
Kaya lang, inano ako ni GMA. Nalala mo si GMA?
Anong inano? I mean, sorry, hindi kayo pinayagan?
Hindi, pinatakbo ako kay Gibo, remember?
As senator. As senator.
Right.
Yung pala, hindi naman si Gibo ang kandidato niya.
Oo nga. Ang balita. Hindi, totoo yan. Ang balita ko, galit na galit si Gibo kay GMA.
Oops!
Na parang dinaglag. Kaya nga, we use Royo with kay Vilera sa kay GMA.
Alam mo, Manong Bebot, compared to the current set of senators, you deserve to become a senator. Hindi kayo tumakbo ng panahon ni President Duterte.
Alam mo
nga.
naman.
Why didn't you run in the
I was
midterm?
Secretary of Labor And beside, nung tatakbo si Vice President Sara, if she ran for president, I would have run with her as senator candidate.
So can I assume that by 2028, if she decides to run for president, you'll be a
If she will ask me,
Why won't she ask you?
Why not?
No, but it's interesting to know that during, we a lot of people in the political class, they are familiar with your name, but for below the political class, I think you need more introduction. So, but can you share to us your background? I understand that you were a human rights lawyer.
Yeah,
during the time
basically
of President Marcos?
I was with the group of Kape Pejokno.
Flag.
The Legal Assistance Group.
Together with the Sina Rene Sagisan.
Yeah.
Mabini yun.
Si Joker.
Si Joker is
Si
Mabini.
Joker.
Si Pablito Sanidad, yun ang mga kasama
Pero
namin.
solid yung dalawa kay Cory, di ba?
Yes,
And
I
that's
started as Deputy Minister kay Cory. I was appointed by Cory 2 days after she assumed office, February 26 siya. I was appointed March 2.
During the Marcos dictatorship, what kind of cases were you handling?
I was with, as I said, I was with the human rights lawyers. And at that time, I was also the chairman of Bayan Mindanao.
Yeah.
Ay, kaliwa pala to. Ba't hindi mukhang kaliwa? Titulad mo. Kagagaling na sa bundok dito, Mr. Secretary. Kababa pa lang.
In fact, I was reputed as the NDF chieftain. Nakabas sa Asia Week yan.
So kayo yung member, kayong official ng Nanis Democratic Front? O kaya Nanis people sa army?
I was interviewed by BBC because of that Asia Week news that Silvestre Bello is the NDF chieftain.
Why were you tagged as the NDF chieftain?
Kasi ito, if you remember, for the late Saprespisio.
Yes.
And she was the OIC mayor under President Cory.
Right. Of Davao.
Of Davao. And we were there talking with Tony Lopez. Tony Lopez was asking Saprespisio kung sino ang NDF chieftain. Ito si Juan, may palabiro naman si Sapre, God bless his soul. Sabi niya, look at him. Sabi nga.
Hindi, pero actually, in fairness to Manong Bebot, and to many activists during that time, masyado kasing polarized yung politics. You know, yung mainstream politicians were already joining yung mga street rallies because of the Marcos dictatorship. So in other words, yung distinction hindi mo na makita.
So how did you manage to get into the good graces of President Cory Aquino?
In addition to that, butante ho ba kayo ng Davao? Butante ho ba kayo ng Davao?
We were I was with the group
No, wait.
of...
Are you asking now?
Ma-remember yun during the election of 1986.
Inisip ko nga eh.
Si Joey Lina was the head of the operation laban kontra Bandaraya.
Okay.
I was his Mindanao chairman.
Okay.
Ayan.
Pero butante ho ba kayo ng Davao o Isabela?
I became
You became a voter?
Ang tanong mo, paulit-ulit, may duda ka ba?
Hindi,
Flying voter?
No, kasi very active sa Davao eh. At saka may mga anak, si Manong Bebot, na konsyal doon. That's why I was asking.
Yes.
But you are from Isabela, so
I'm until now I'm from Isabela. I just happened to marry Egdiabewenya. Kaya napunta ko ng
At saka may vice mayor kayong anak sa Isabela.
sa Isabela, sa Ilagan.
But so, hindi kayo Marcos loyalist at all?
Never.
Never.
In fact, I was in prison during Marcos time. And it was the late late boss, Fred Fidel Ramos, who put me in jail.
Ang uncle nito. Ito rin may shoot to kill eh.
That's why when I ran
Sinave naman ako ng FBI.
Ma-remember mo, I ran with FBI
Yes.
1992. Dahil si Franklin Delon, who was supposed to run for senator, withdrew because his candidate was Mitra.
LDP.
When President Cory chose
FBI.
Fidel Ramos,
Tao.
nag-withdraw siya and then nirecommend niya ako. That's
si
why
Manong
tinatawag ako ni the late President Cory, God bless his soul. Sinabi niya, Bebot, wala kaming kandidato para kay AD sa Region 2 and Region 11. And you fit in there. Sabi ko, ma'am, okay lang. Siyempre, paano? Kayong presidente ko eh. Pero ma'am, yan si Ramos, kinulong ako eh. Alam mo ang sagot niya? You will be surprised. Sabi niya, ikaw naman, Bebot, kinulong ka lang. Asawa ko nga, pinatay.
Well, she can speak in jest.
Totoo naman.
Totoo yun.
And then I won. But, ninako yung boto ko. Hindi ko na lang sabihin kung sino mga nagnakaw. Pero talagang kawatan mga yon. They're both dead now.
Parang alam ko yun.
Itago na lang natin sa patay na sila.
Patay na sila. Ninako ang boto namin. Grabe.
Grabe pa ang kwan nun eh.
Number 18 eh.
24 pa kasi noon. 24.
Even kasama ko si 25, naging 25 si Alran Bengson.
O si Manong Alran.
Buhay
pa ba si Manong Alran?
Nadaya rin si Alran. Wala na yata.
Patay na rin.
Mr. Secretary, it's you were close to Cory and then you served so many presidents. And how did you become close to President Duterte?
Well, from 1964 to 1970, we stayed in the same boarding house sa YMCA.
Dito. Nag-aaral siya ng law school.
Sa San Beda siya, sa Ateneo ako.
Ang magaling ang eskwela yun, Ateneo.
Sabi ko palagi nga namin
ko taga Ateneo, I
binibiro.
will not comment
If
anymore.
you remember Billy Dulay.
Yes.
Yun ang kasama namin sa YMCA.
BIR,
And
Billy Dulay.
We used to say, sabi namin, uy, Digong, saan ka ba nag-aaral? Sabi sa San Beda, saan ba yun?
Manong, why were you active and, as a peace negotiator, negotiating with the CPP, NP, and DF? And you worked under four
when
presidents.
I was deputy minister and President Cory, through the efforts of Apang-Apeng.
Mang-aping yan.
Mang-apeng.
Kasama namin.
There was anong tawag dito?
The late Governor Yap. Yes.
Governor Yap was talking to the late Fidel Agcawili.
Yes.
And they were proposing a peace negotiation.
This is during Cory's time.
During Cory's time,
Yes.
1990. Sabi ni Fidel
Agcawili.
Apang-Apeng Yap.
Aping Yap.
Sabi niya, Bebot, merong initial talk sa Hong Kong. Sumama ka para kausapin natin si Fidel. Sabi nga Sabi ko pala mo kay Cory. Nagpalam siya, okay, sabi niya. So I was about to go with Fidel Ramos, with Governor Apeng Yap. When suddenly President Cory called me, sabi niya, Bebot, Secretary of Justice ka na. Masyado mataas ang position mo. You send somebody there. Pinadala ko who was my undersecretary, si Tessie Castro, who became eventually a member of the
Panel. Yes.
Yun. Nagkaroon ng initial talks. Then finally, they agreed to hold the first peace negotiation in Brooklyn, Netherlands. No. Brooklyn, ba't maniwala ka yung lugar na yun? Parang Chinese pagoda.
Yes.
Oo.
Hindi, sayang nga po kasi kasama ko rin si Secretary Bebot sa peace
Mabuti
negotiations.
nandito ka kasi gusto ko i-reveal na, remember mo, alam mo yan eh.
Sabihin nyo.
Dapat magkaroon na ng peace agreement.
Interim peace agreement. Initial, no less than by Chairman of the
Yan ang tawag doon yung
IPA.
interim peace
Interim
agreement,
peace.
IPA. Dahil under the interim peace agreement, all the members of the NPA will be given amnesty by the President, by President Ramos. But that amnesty
President Duterte
to be ratified by President Duterte, to be ratified by Congress.
Yes.
Let's fast forward to during the time you established your close relationship with the former President Duterte because of your residence in YMCA.
YMCA, and then eventually in Davao.
And then, so you cemented the relationship when you went, because you were staying
I
in
went to
Davao.
Davao after martial law.
Okay.
1972 kasi I was consular rin namin in Isabela. Pero nung mag-martial law, I had to resign because yung regional commander, Tranquilino Paranis, gusto niya napaputol ko yung buhok ko. Nakakapulong ngayon ang uso nun eh. Sabi niya, hindi ka maka-attend ng session kung hindi mo paputol yung buhok. So nag-resign ako.
May narinig po akong kwento, you were about to be arrested sa Davao. At you were about to be arrested by the military. Nagrally kayo. Pinuntahan kayo ni former President Duterte sa rally mismo.
So sabi niya, tago ka na. Sabi ko, bakit? Uhulihin kayo. So nahuli si Larry Ilagan, si Tony Arellano, and my former Apalae, si Boy Rizonar. They were all arrested, including Misana. Kaya lang, si Digong, tago ka na. So,
Nagtago kayo?
Nagtago ko, punta ako sa Digos. Pero nobody on your body.
Baka nandun din si Bato.
Sa Digos.
Sino po yung plinantahan ng granada sa ilalim ng kama? Hindi ba kayo yon?
Hindi.
Tapos anak yung nandun si Babaw, so sabi nung piskal ata, narinig ko lang na kwento to. Imposible naman yan, sabi. Kasi during those times, sa martial law, grabe yung mga maraming farmer. Plant dito ng ebidensya.
Talaga.
Ikuan yun. Sino naman yun?
Kaya akala ko po kayo.
Colonel Kahulugan.
Sec, but I'll just go straight to something quite controversial. Because your past, you were a human rights lawyer.
Yes.
And then it is publicly known and common knowledge that during the time of President Duterte, he enforced tokhang and killed a number of drug addicts or whatever you may call them. But so how do you reconcile the fact that you are a human rights lawyer and although you are not directly connected to the PNP or to that portion of governance, how do you reconcile your beliefs as a human rights lawyer vis-a-vis what was happening during the Duterte administration?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, Edwin. You know what? Ang akala ng tao, ang daming pinatay si Digong. Ganon ang perception. Alam mo kung bakit? Every time na may mamatay na drug lord o yung drug addict, sasabihin niya siya nagpatay pero hindi. Totoo yan.
But Manong Bebot, don't get this wrongly. No, because when the president speaks, it becomes policy.
Correct.
So, in other words, pag sinabing ubusin yan, patayin yung mga yan, hindi kaya yung mga gumawa ng patayan was following the verbal instructions of the president?
Pero alam niyo yung he qualified this, he qualified this statement na patayin niyo kung lalaban. He said that in self-defense. Kung halimbawa, pulis ka, may arrestin ka, pumunot, barayan mo, unahan mo. Wag ka
it's hard for me to imagine that, number one, one extrajudicial killing is one killing too many. Because whether you're saying it's just 1,000, 4,000, 20,000, it's still a violation of human rights. So I mean, you're out of
That's true.
government now.
I agree.
So
Edwin,
how did you reconcile this?
Yeah, I agree. But as I said, believe it or not, wala pang pinatay si Digong. Except when in defense. Remember mo, there was a group of mga addicts. They raided a house in Huna Subdivision, Davao City.
Huna, yes, I know the
And
place.
killed the people there.
May mga kamag-anak ako doon, no?
Lahat pinatay.
If you take the record of PNP, the reported thing was around 4,000. If you take the records of outside, it's about 20,000.
Ang
Namatay, supposedly.
No, pero the point, my point lang, it's not so much the quantity, but it's your mindset as a human rights lawyer. Obviously, whether it's 100, whether it's 1,000, whether it's 4,000, you were a human rights lawyer, and the first thing that you were defending under the Marcos dictatorship was the defense of constitutional rights, the right to due process.
That's right.
Those who were killed were never
believe
deprived of due
Was there
process.
ever a time na pinag-usapan ito sa kabinete and you stated a position contrary
Alam
to
naman
the
yan.
policy pronouncements
Alam naman niya yan.
or verbal pronouncements? of
Alam
the
niyang
president?
alin.
Alam niya naman na we are human rights violation.
Alam
Pero
niya.
alam naman niya, na alam ko, na wala naman siyang pinapatay except isa.
But that's
Pero yung mga announcement niya na pinatay ko, patayin niyo, qualified lahat yun.
and if you know, you mentioned
Remember mo, ang number one legal counsel niya, ni former President Digong, si Larry Ilagan.
Yes.
You know him.
Asawa ni Juan, Yusek Ilagan,
Asawa
ng
ni
DSWD.
Yusek Ilagan, and number one human rights lawyer yan.
you mentioned that as far as to your knowledge, he only murdered one person. Do you
Yes.
know the name of the person?
I forgot, but he's a young boy, addict. Kasi nung I was telling you about that addict who killed a lot of people inside the
Huna
subdivision.
Village, I know that place.
Sinakay yan nung nahuli, sinakay sa chopper. Nung nandun sa chopper, binunutan yung piloto. Ginawa ni Digong, bago makababaril yung piloto, tinulak niya. Yun ang alam ko na napatay lang because of that.
So your knowledge is limited to that
Yun,
one.
that's the only one na
But are you
nakita ko.
disputing the? By the way, this is what the situation that you're saying is similar to the situation of King Henry when he was in a quarrel with Thomas Becket. This is in the UK, I mean England, where he said, "Can no one get rid of this pesting pare?" And so the king just uttered it, and what Nani was saying, the Knights of King Henry decided to murder Thomas Becket in Canterbury Cathedral. That's why there's such a thing as command responsibility there.
But also moving forward, yung killings na yun is now the case against the former president.
Which is not the case.
sa ICC.
Not as an
Not as a actual shooter, but
yes,
as
by actual participation, but by
Alam mo, sayang, nagka-problema kasi ito. In-erase nung sekretarya ko yung mga previous communication.
Ay.
Pero ang dami communication dyan, yung mga complainants against him they were asking payment from me for them to withdraw, including their lawyer.
oh.
Oo,
And there will be
nakuan pa nga ako na sa bagay, konti lang naibigay ko. Kasi sabi niya, prepared na yung affidavit of existence. Prepare na, dadalhin sa ganito. Walang pamasahe yung messenger ko, sabi ng abogado. Sabi ko, magkano ba? Pupunta lang sa Kabatuan ni Besia.
Kabatuan,
sabi ko, pwede na siguro dyan, kanto 2,500. Oo, binigay ko.
Nag-withdraw.
Hindi nga Hindi na nakapakita. Napeke ako Pero yung mga tawag ng tawag, sir, kailan mo bigay? Saan mo bigay? After that, na-scam ko, hindi na ako sumasagot.
So that also tells us na alam nila na malapit po talaga kayo kay President Duterte.
Hindi ko naman
Well, in any event, at least but that's at least you're not implicated in the ICC because you were not directly involved, di ba?
At saka Manong, hindi po ako yung nag-text sa'yo humingi ng pera kasi I know your number. At saka hindi lang yun yung hihingin ko.
At saka hindi lang yan ang hingin niya.
Correct. Isasama ko si Atty. Edwin.
Sekbe, but there's a current thing that's news that you were allegedly offered a 1 billion
I was offered.
You were offered.
Yes, oo.
Can you describe the situation? And if you are able to identify the person that offered it, we'd be happy to know.
Unang-una, I cannot really identify. Unang-una is a good friend.
Nani Braganza.
Hindi, naghihintay ako ng balato nun eh. Pag totoo yun eh.
Well, anyway.
Aside from being a good friend, I think he was also in same position. In other words, when I refused the 1 billion, I refused to run against
What's the 1 billion is an offer to do what?
to run
To run
for Congress in Davao.
Hindi ba?
Initially, I thought he was asking me to run against the Duterte. Sabi ko naman, partner, kasi barkada partner, para ka mo naman ng insulto, haka ko.
You were asked to run as a representative.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, pero nung unang offer, I thought he was asking me to run in Davao against Duterte. So,
Against Duterte as
Akala
mayor.
niya.
mayor, oo.
Ah.
Sabi ko, ikaw naman, kaibigan, barkada. Sabi ko,
Correct.
ikaw naman, partner, para mo naman nang iinsulto. Lalabanan ko yung kaibigan ko.
Correct.
Naging boss ko ba? Sabi niya, hindi. Lalabanan mo yung congressman ng 3rd District of Davao.
Si Ungab.
Congressman
Ungab.
Close rin kay Digong.
who defeated your son? Kasi yung kasan ko, ang nakalaban niya eh. Sabi ko,
Okay.
ako, alam mo, hindi ako butante. That
Sa
was-
Davao.
The offer was made to me May 2024. May 2024. Sabi ko, hindi ako pwede kasi hindi ako butante dyan eh. Pwede ka mag-transfer. You have time.
Yes.
Sabi ko,
Wala na, 1 year eh.
yung 2024.
2024. May 1 year ka, di ba? You can.
Yeah, you can.
Sabi mo na, sabi ko, hindi pwede ka ako. Alam mo, gastos ka lang ng 100 million, may maiwan ka pang 900 million, panalo ka na.
Hindi tayo maalala ko ng savings na 900 million.